Hi, my name is Jenna Hancock, and I will be talking about myself as a writer today. And my dog's gonna annoy me because she wants food. So, I think I learned to write like every other kid. It started off with scribbles and nonsense, then to drawings where I explained it to people, then to sentences, well, words first, and then sentences, and so on. My parents are very active in my education, so I practiced a lot at home. They put me in preschool, so I kind of had a head start just with a school environment. And I also obviously learned in school. So the first thing I remember writing was a piece on how plants grow, because it was for my first grade class and we were learning about parts of a plant and how they grow. So I think that's the first thing I ever remember writing was a paper on how plants grow. That was in second grade, and it was part of a project where we had to get like a little glass jar and we had to fill it with objects and then write a story about it or write a poem about it. And I took a floral rose and I stuck it in the jar and I wrote a poem about the rose. And I was really proud of it because they put it in the library showcase box. Like, they had this whole thing of judging where they went through and looked at all of our projects, and they only selected one project from each second grade class. And so I got to be in it, and I was really excited, and I was super proud of that, especially because they had like an open house parent conference thing the next day, and mine was in the case, and I got to show my parents. So it was great. It was fun. Yes, I loved to write when I was a kid. I think it's because I was really imaginative and I loved to read. And so I was always writing down stories or ideas or poems or captions on pictures or whatever. Like, I was always reading and writing. And I did that in my free time. So, I mean, I wasn't like a hermit. I would go outside and play and do that stuff. But at night, when I was supposed to be asleep, I would sit by my nightlight and I would read or I would write something because I knew I'd get in trouble if my parents knew I was awake. So that's what I did. A little weird, but whatever. Not so much, because now it's like self-reflections or it's essays or whatever. It's not fun like it used to be. And classwork is all that I really write for anyways. I'm sick of self-reflections. That's the one thing I can say. I always joke that our cohort's mascot should be a disco ball because all we do is reflect all the time. Like, reflect, reflect, reflect. It's cheesy, but you get it. Over time, you know, when you're growing up, you learn the bones of writing, and then you learn to be more creative. And I think that was my favorite stage, was being able to be creative with my wording and be descriptive and all that. But once I got into AP classes in high school, you know, that stopped because it's kind of like they want you to cut out the fluffy stuff and get to the point of what you're writing. And so and that's how I write now. You know, I don't have the fluffy stuff in there. You know, I write straight to the point and to get what I want to get across. So that's how it's changed. I liked writing stories and poems and whatever. Like, I really liked writing when I was little, but especially stories and poems. Now that I'm an adult, like I said, I don't really enjoy writing. The only thing that I really like to write is to-do lists or checklists, because just crossing it out feels so good. So I like to write so I can like destroy it, be like, I did all this. So that's the only thing I like to write. I have a lot. I don't know, but there's one that was like, yes moment, and that was when I finally got the highest score on my AP Lit essay that I could in my class. I can't remember, I think it's a 4. I don't know, like that, yeah, it stands out, but I don't know what it is. Okay, but I got like the highest score I could get on an AP essay. And that was like a really big event because my teacher was so tough. Like, she was just difficult. but she was great. She was a great teacher, but she just graded really hard. And so when I finally got like the highest score I can get, I was like, woo! I was so excited. So that's probably one of the biggest events. In 6th grade, I read this book. It was a total chick book. It was called like Wildwood Dancing. And it was about these sisters that would go dancing at night. And they would go to like this far off land, and they had to get there in a magical way. And it was just one of those books. But I loved it because the characters were just really detailed and crazy, and the storylines were awesome, and it had a lot of detail, and I could really lose myself in that book. And I think that was one of my favorite things about reading and writing, was that I just wanted to lose myself. And when a book, captured my attention that much, it was just really exciting. So I wanted my writing to be the same way. I wanted it to be descriptive and really engaging for people to read. But I also really liked the series of Unfortunate Events because Lemony Snicket just blew my mind when I was a kid. And so I really wanted to write like him, with his little plot twists and crazy things that he put in his books. And it's just completely opposite of my style that I really enjoyed it. So I know I could never write like him, but I always wanted to. When I was young, I loved when my teachers would give me really specific feedback. Like when they would either conference with me, or, they'd read my paper real quick and just tell me like one thing to fix, or even, writing notes down on the paper, being very specific. That strategy, I think that helped me the most, because I really knew what direction I should be taking my writing in, and what direction, I shouldn't. And so I liked it when teachers were specific with me. Another thing was giving me creative freedom. Like, I loved it when teachers didn't prompt me and tell me that I had to write about this red dog that we read about today. And, that I got to write about something related to a story we read or something we're studying. But they never gave me a specific thing saying, hey, you have to write about this one thing and that's it. So I was really thankful for teachers that didn't do that to me, because then I struggled writing when I had a prompt that I didn't connect to. So creative freedom and specific feedback. I hated it when teachers forced me to use like FCAT structure. And so, the whole beginning, middle, end thing. And the one thing that really ticked me off was when they made you do the organizer. And I get that some people need the organizer for their thoughts, or, that some people can't just go straight into writing. But I could. I was okay with just starting out writing. Or if I had a couple thoughts, I'd jot them down on the paper. But I hated when teachers would make me draw the little UFO with my main idea, and then make little beams coming down with my 3 main points, and then the details I'm going to add in to support those points, and then my conclusion. Like, I hated it. And I hated it when I got in trouble for not using something that doesn't help me at all. So that was one thing I hated. And then another thing was the red pen teachers that just murder your paper with red pen, but not specifics. Like, they just say, they would circle something and say, what? That doesn't help me. Or, they put question mark by a paragraph. Like, a whole paragraph you have a question? Like, that doesn't help me either. Another thing was just underlining stuff and saying, oh, this is great. Or, oh, take this in a new direction. Or, oh, expand this. And never being really specific with me, saying, take this in a new direction, like this, and this, or I don't understand this sentence because of this. But like when a teacher just wrote, a question mark, it's like, what don't you understand about this, like, huge paragraph I wrote? Because that doesn't help me at all. So honestly, that kind of feedback never helped my writing. I would look at it and go, okay, and then I would just write however I wanted to write after that, and hope that maybe next time they wouldn't have a question about a whole paragraph I wrote. even if maybe they just had a question about a sentence, but whatever, I hated it. It was stupid. I think that now as pre-service and going into a classroom, I just want to make writing fun for my kids, because in my past internship classroom, my teacher was great. She really was, but writing was just terrible for my kids. They hated it. They thought it was a job. They never wanted to do it. I mean, you had a couple that just loved writing, so they didn't care. Like, they would write whatever. But a lot of times, students gave up on writing, or they struggled with writing, or they did not like it. And so going in to be a teacher and an intern, I want to show kids that writing can be fun and expressive, and that, they can use their imagination. I know that, with the nonfiction rights, it's not as imaginative, but it can still be fun. They can still add detail and stuff like that. So that's one thing. I feel like the imaginative parts of writing get squashed when teachers teach the test, and it stifles creativity, which is something that I want to avoid. So going in, I want to make writing fun. I don't want to teach the test. I want to teach to make good writers, and then they will most likely pass the test if they're good writers. So that's what I want to incorporate, how much love I had for writing, and how much fun that it can be. So that's what I want to bring into my experience in the future in my classroom. So, the end.